Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Bolin, and today I'm joined by Brooke Brown, again for the second time. I'm very honored by that. She calls herself an ink weaver of life, faith, and fiction. Brooke shares stories that glorify God and inspire others. She's an honors graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism, Miss Wheelchair Arizona 2022, and the founder of Brooke's Butterfly Touch. This ministry helping people discover the power of their own stories. She's also the author of Rolling in Grace. This is a page turner. I couldn't put it down. This book is fantastic. Plus all these other books here. Let me get this out of the way. Now this is Rolling in Grace Volume 1. I think you're going to be coming up with Volume 2. And it's a foundation of faith and imagination, which is now available in audio form, which is really cool. I can tell you from personal experience, like I said earlier, it's a page turner. So many practical stories that everyone can relate to. Brooke lives with cerebral palsy and uses an augmentative communication tool showing how every voice can inspire hope, healing, and new opportunities. This is Brooke's second appearance, like I said earlier, on the We're Not Stumped podcast. And since you all want to hear the first episode, go to we'renotstumped.com, look up Brooke Brown, and you see the video and listen to the audio, whatever is the best for you, however we want to do it. And as you can tell, I'm doing something a little different today. You know, I have the questions here that I've prepared for Brooke because she uses a tool to help communicate, and we're just going to get right into it. And like I said, I really enjoyed this book. It's on Amazon. Yeah, it's on Amazon. I didn't have to buy it. She was nice enough to give it to me, but I know she does public appearances too. Follow her on Instagram because she does public appearances at grocery stores. I think Spry's typically, if I'm not mistaken. And you can go see her. She's not into flowers, but I'm kidding. She has a little personal joke where you then talk about she loves flowers and king, of course. So I'm going to get into the first question now. If we're ready. In the first chapter, you state, "Mom always recalls the story of my diagnosis with the doctor, and his warning was, don't ever let anyone tell you that she's mentally challenged. She is extremely bright." My parents agreed wholeheartedly and never returned to any other doctor or specialist who wanted to differ with that opinion. Looking back, how is that leadership from your parents affecting your life now?
I am really grateful that my parents always pushed me to use my intelligence to accomplish many of my goals. They always made sure that anybody that we were dealing with as far as school, therapy, doctors, or other services made sure they knew I was mentally competent. As much as possible, they always asked for my input as far as any service plans or my assistance, and that gave me the confidence to speak up for myself. My parents also gave me my strong work ethic, and while they definitely helped me get any accommodations I needed to be successful, they never let me take shortcuts or get off easy because of my disability, especially when it came to school. Along with that, my mom would always make sure that I had a pretty typical social life with sleepovers, going to brownies, and Girl Scouts, and stuff like that.
It sounds like your parents were great people. Another quote from your book, "As long as I've longed for legs strong enough to run and dance upright, clear speech, and a normal body overall, I've wondered at different times of my life and different points who I would be and for what purpose if my physical limitations were eliminated." That's a very interesting quote. Matter of fact, we share those thoughts. Sometimes I wonder, hey, if I was a two-handed person, what would I be like? How do you think your life would be different?
Well, right off the bat, I can tell you that I don't know if I would be a writer. I would have been a performer, probably a dancer or an actor. I would probably still have my faith, but I don't know that I would have an actual dedicated ministry. I guess God knew what he was doing. Oh, and also, for better or for worse, I would probably have a lot more dating experience and maybe even been married. I'm still trusting that God will send me my husband and Sue.
I think I like the better or worse part. I think that's a really good point. You started writing in 4th grade when Mrs. Jones introduced you to creative writing. How did that transform your life?
thank God every day for my sweet Mrs. Jones because she gave me a way to show other people that yes, I am really all here. It's like my dad always says, when you read my writing, you have no idea that I have a speech impairment. Creative writing gives me a way to separate from my limitations. Like you see in the introduction of the book, the person inside of me is not confined by my physical limitations. When I write, I let her out.
The first poem you published was a poem titled The Love Wind, which was in the Arizona Children's Magazine when you were 14 years old. That's amazing. Why did you feel more comfortable exploring disability through your fictional characters rather than writing about personal narratives and your personal experience at that time?
That's one of the biggest onions in my story. There's so many layers in the answer to that question. The first reason is that when I was at school, especially elementary and junior high, I felt like I was always under observation, so to speak. I didn't want my actual thoughts, feelings, and experiences to be scrutinized and analyzed, like I was a clinical case study or something, if that makes sense. Giving my fictional characters the burden of disability also did a couple things for my eternal well-being. It allowed me to process the difficulties and the hurtful experiences without scratching the actual wounds, along with giving me the power to change the narrative and deliver the comebacks I could never get out in real life. That's why it has taken me nearly a decade to write the entire story. Facing the reality of so many struggles head on is freaking hard, dude. It's why I love the quote, "Imagination is the greatest weapon against realities."
Yeah, very well done. I would remind everyone who I'm talking this to, Brooke Brown, author, Rolling in Grace, a memoir. This is volume 1. Volume 2 is coming out, and this just came out also in audio form. So go look it up, go buy it, go support. The next question I have for you is, in your book, you talk about running into your 3rd grade teacher while you were attending ASU. This story is fascinating. She was now a teacher at the university. You talk about how surprised she looked that you were attending college. Can you give us the backstory on that and how that made you feel?
Yes, I hope it makes sense to your audience. At some point during my 3rd grade year, I had overheard a conversation between her and my classroom assistant about how my teacher had used me as a case study for her doctoral thesis, something to do with her theories about the correlation between my disability and struggles with math. I didn't understand what that meant at the time, but it made me feel uneasy and sad. I really liked her, but she put me under another microscope. It gave me a serious case of what you could call lab rat syndrome, feeling like I was just a specimen to be studied and not a real little girl. When I saw her on campus at Arizona State, the first thing she asked me was if I was a student. Why else would I be speeding across campus loaded down with books? When I answered yes, she said, quote, "I'm so proud of you for making it to college," end quote. I know she didn't mean it to be condescending, but it felt that way. The amount of shock in her response was hurtful. I was thinking, what, did I disprove all your research? Did she think so little of my potential?
I can see that point there. And you know what? I also want to give a shout out to United Cerebral Palsy Central Phoenix for allowing us to use this room today. It's great to have you back on the podcast. You also talk about how parents of children with disabilities can better navigate their situations. In particular, you share a fascinating story about a decision your parents made regarding a 5th grade teacher whose class you wanted to attend and how your wishes weren't met. Can you talk about that incident and how you use it as an example for others today?
My elementary school's most popular 5th grade teacher was Mr. K, loved by everyone for his understanding nature and the cozy man cave vibe of his classroom. I wanted to be in his class, But my overprotected mom, uncomfortable with me having a male teacher, overruled my choice. Instead, I was placed in Mrs. H's class, who wanted me there to enhance her reputation. Despite having specific accommodations due to my disability, she never fully addressed my needs. She was also very critical of everything I did. At the end of the year, my mom apologized for not listening to me, and I shared this story with other parents to encourage them that while in most situations they will know best, sometimes they need to listen to the child's opinion and really know who their child is becoming as a person.
Yeah, I like the way you said that. And I also want to remind everyone about the book again, but what I want to say is, even with these questions that have to do with the book, we're just scratching the surface. There is so much more to this book. So even though we're having this conversation, I still urge people to get Rolling in Grace Volume 1, get it on the audio, go to Amazon and grab your book. Your Sweet 16 was different in that you didn't get a car like many of your friends, but you did get an updated van. All new bells and whistles, as you wrote. It was painted purple. More importantly, your dad allowed your friends to use it and let you go places like the mall. How did that impact you?
That van was probably the best gift my parents ever gave me. Some of my friends nicknamed it the purple bullet that always made me laugh. Being able to do things on my own with my friends like any other teenager did wonders for my sense of self and independence. I learned countless lessons in how to act in social situations and how to ask my friends for help when I needed it. That was especially meaningful at the school dances. My friends who were allowed to drive my van were ones who never focused on my disability. They just helped me figure out how to do whatever we were getting into. It was probably the longest period of time in my life when I felt, quote, normal more often than I felt different.
You say that in reflection, Scottsdale Christian Academy created the core of who you still are today. What are some of the highlights from that time that you would like to share?
Being a student at Scottsdale Christian came with so many blessings that helped forge my identity as a woman of faith who knows God has a purpose for everything in my life. The first and most important was biblical understanding and knowledge I gained. We were required to take a Bible class every year, so I got to know exactly what and who I believe in. As part of the Bible curriculum, we spent a semester learning Hebrew and another learning Greek and Latin. It was difficult but fascinating. Beyond the classroom, I got to witness the true power of community, especially in prayer. Along with that, I was able to begin the journey to discover my own capacity to serve others. All middle and high school students were required to participate in Mission Week each year, where we were put on teams and assigned different service projects at various locations, locally and abroad. I was usually assigned to the team serving meals at Salvation Army or packing Christmas Showbox gifts at the headquarters of Showbox Ministries. They always found tasks I could do myself without too much difficulty. I thoroughly enjoyed feeling useful. Senior year also brought two big blessings. I was a cheerleader on a team that made me feel valued, unlike what happened in middle school. And then I reluctantly agreed to take art because I needed the credits to graduate. At first, I didn't feel like I had the dexterity to make art. However, my teacher was amazing and worked with me one-on-one to create different kinds of paintings. He was so pleased with my work, he submitted many of my pieces to the state high school art fair and I won several awards. It taught me that I can always find a way to do anything God puts on my heart.
Just another reminder, Brooke Brown, Rolling in Grace Volume 1, we're scratching a surface. There's so much more to this book. But thank you for allowing me to ask these questions. Now, we're going to go back to issue for just a second, because one fascinating story that comes from your early in one of your chapters is when you talk about your experience in the ASL class, which is American Sign Language class, with the head of the department, which also happened to be your professor. Can you share that story?
One of my graduation requirements was taking at least a full year of a foreign language, so I opted to continue with ASL. I thought it would be an easy transition from high school, but unfortunately, it didn't start that way. My professor for SL 101 was the head of the SL department. She was not very kind or cooperative. On my first day of class, she wanted everyone to repeat their names after her with finger spelling. I understood that she was spelling out every name, but I had never seen the sign for repeat before. I didn't know if that's what she wanted, so when she got to me and spelled my name, I signed yes instead of spelling my name back to her. I could tell she was irritated, and at the next class period, I had a note from her that said I needed to speak to the head of disability resources about the class. I thought, what the heck? The meeting consisted of my professor, a few other signed professors, one of the heads of disability resources, the ASL legal team, my parents, and me. The head of the sign language department was trying to insist that I couldn't learn and wanted me banned from the sign language department. I was enraged because I had taken 2 years in high school and have all this, but she didn't care or believe me. During the meeting, one of the other side professors, who could tell that I was cognizant, took me outside and sat with me. He then asked me many questions inside to see if I was capable and understood the language, which I did. We went back inside, and he informed everyone in the room that I correctly answered everything he asked. It was determined that I would transfer to another professor's class. My new professor was super sweet, and I had a lot of fun in her class and got an A. It was another example of how some people, even department heads, can get so stuck in their biases.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the lead parts in the book, you refer to someone as Dr. Fun, and this was during your time at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. Can you give a little background on that person and how she impacted your time at ASU?
During the era that I was at Arizona State University, Dr. Mary Lou Galishan, better known as Dr. Fun, was the head of the media analysis and criticism concentration in the Cronkite School, which is where I settled. If I remember correctly, she was one of the creators of that concentration. Within that, she taught a class called Sex, Love, and Romance in the Media. I know that a lot of people raise their eyebrows when they hear that at first, but the whole class revolved around looking at the different ways the media portrays relationships and figuring out what is actually realistic in a healthy way and what is not. It was a class created by her with her own textbook. It was very popular partly because Dr. Fun had a very big personality for a little woman. I really enjoyed her class, especially as a writer, because it taught me to be more mindful of not falling in the trap of the classic tropes that you see in romance books and movies today. But besides the material, Dr. Fun really connected with me and took me under her wing. I think she understood not only am I intelligent, but that I love fairy tales and fantasy because sometimes I feel trapped by the different ways that my body is dysfunctional. She's the one who made me recognize my deeper connection to Alice's adventures in Wonderland, and that's why there are so many references to the story in Rolling in Grace. Alice is one of the very few fairy tale characters that Dr. Fun wholeheartedly approved of because, like I said in the introduction, Alice rescues herself. Back to the original question. Dr. Fun and I became extremely close because my last semester of school I ended up doing an independent study with her because there was a mix-up in my schedule and I ended up registering for the same class twice under 2 different names, and I had to fix that somehow, so my guidance counselor suggested that I do a project with Dr. Fun instead of trying to find another class. I told the whole story in Rolling in Grace, but the short version is that my project ended up being finishing the first draft of The Little Butterfly Girl, figuring out how to set up a website and look around for publishing options. It wasn't the type of project that Dr. Fun would normally approve because it wasn't very journalistic in the traditional sense. but I think Dr. Fun knew it was a way for me to put myself out in front of people and it would give me new opportunities to interact with people. So during the semester, Dr. Fun really got to know my story, and the first blessing she gave me was inviting me to be her guest at the annual Cronkite Awards. Only about 5 to 10 students get invited every year, and the rest are all media professionals. That year, the Cronkite Excellence in Journalism Award went to former World News anchor Tom Brokaw, and there were a lot of big wigs in attendance.
The thing about what she did, Dr. Fun, and if it comes out dry fun again, make sure you listen to this Dr. Fun. She nominated you for the Walter Cronkite Outstanding Undergraduate Award. Not only did you receive the award, you also got to give a speech. I want to know what that experience is like, but I want to let people know that that speech can be found in this book. So what was that like?
Not long after the award banquet, I found out that Dr. Fun had nominated me for the Outstanding Undergraduate Award, and that I had been chosen not only to receive that award, but to be the student speaker at graduation. Now, what's funny about this whole thing, I did not know the whole backstory of how that came to be until I was writing chapter 6 and reached out to Dr. Fun for clarification on a few things. She told me that she actually fought the whole committee to ensure that I was getting the award and that I would be the speaker. In her opinion, none of the other candidates would make the same impact. It was very humbling, but also made me feel a little embarrassed because I didn't feel that I deserved it. During that time, I was suffering from major imposter syndrome because I wasn't involved in any of the student journalism organization or anything like that. But Dr. Fun was like, I see how hard you worked. You put more efforts into the things you can do than the students who are doing everything. That may not be exactly what she said, but that was her point. Giving that speech was the most gratifying yet terrifying experience ever. It was my very first public speech ever, and I had to make sure that I hit the key code on my device in the right order to have it say the speech correctly. My fingers were shaking. There were probably 200 people in the audience, or maybe even more. I was not expecting the standing ovation. I was so surprised that I tried to walk away, but I forgot my device was still plugged into the system, so I couldn't go anywhere. I remember the tech guy coming up and whispering in my ear, "Stay and enjoy this." The dean of the Cronkite School told my mom that I was the first student speaker ever to get a standing ovation. I remember Dr. Fun coming down the aisle and looking at him like, "Oh, I told you." But what I should mention that makes this event so significant is that I had been having a recurring dream for the couple months beforehand. In the dream, I was sitting on a stage under a spotlight, and I could hear the voice of God saying, quote, "If you want people to read your word, they need to hear your voice. I want you to speak," end quote. It was confusing at first, but after finding out about graduation, it made more sense. Especially since I started being invited to speak at other events within a few months after graduation.
Again, that speech can be found in Rolling in Grace Volume 1, so if you want to see what that, read what that was, get that book, get the audiobook, get one of them. Can you talk about your time at Ability 360? That place is near and dear to my heart. I happen to be on the board of directors there. In particular, the Inclusive Theater Company and is sponsored in your role.
I initially found out about the Improbable Theater Company, later renamed Theater 360, through an email I received at my first job. I was curious because the email said they were looking for writers as well as actors, so I went to the meeting never intending to act because I could picture how that would work, but the director would not let me off that easy. So, lo and behold, I spent the next 9 years as one of the principal actors and writers. I learned a lot about facial expressions and how to use my body mechanics to communicate, even though I use my communication app to deliver most of my lines. All in all, it made me a better speaker and better prepared to take on my role as Miss Wheelchair Arizona 2022. I do miss performing a lot though, but I'm still in touch with most of my theater buddies. In fact, my good friend Jolie is the whole reason that I ended up becoming involved with Miss Wheelchair Arizona. She was the title holder for Arizona in 2009 and was relentless about pushing me to compete. It's true what they say, God works in mysterious ways.
It sure does. You got two big things going on right now. The last question, your book, like we talked about, is now available in audio form, and you're working on volume 2. Along with those great achievements, what else are you looking forward to in the future?
I was hoping to have volume 2 done and in the publishing process by Christmas, but because of some health stuff, I don't think that is going to happen, but I'm hoping that I will get some speaking opportunities from volume 1 because I wrote it not simply in my story but as a teaching tool for various groups. I also want to get back to recording my own podcast and video content for YouTube. I also will welcome any other invitations to be on other podcasts. Along with that, I'm excited to say that I am currently working with my team to put together the 2026 Miss Wheelchair Arizona competition. This year, we will be launching the Little Miss Wheelchair Arizona and Miss Wheelchair Arizona's teen programs. The competition is February 6th at Ability 360. We are looking for contestants, volunteers, and financial sponsors. If you are interested in being involved in any of those capacities, reach out on Facebook or Instagram at Miss Wheelchair Arizona Inc.
Miss Wheelchair Arizona, and then they can find out about all the great things they're going to. That's been. And your website, brooksbutterflytouch.com. So they want to get a hold of you for speaking. So I know you're coming out with volume 2, and when that comes out, we got to do volume 3 of getting together here. And if you want to have Brooke on either to speak or to be on your podcast, again, go to brooksbutterflytouch.com. I can't recommend this book enough, though. Rolling in Grace, Volume 1. Once you start, you cannot put it down. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being a guest today at the We're Not Stumped podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yes.
Always a pleasure.